Attention. If you or a loved one were impacted by the Mises Caucus, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Mesothelioma is a rare cancer linked to bullshit exposure. Exposure to bullshit on social media, on Dave Smith's podcast, on LouRockwell.com, or in person may have put you at risk. Please, don't wait. Watch this podcast for a free consultation on how you can stop the Mises Caucus takeover. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of the Fakertarians podcast. I'm your host, John Hudak, along with Jeremy Kantorowicz, Archie Flower, and our tech guy. We regret to tell you that Kevin Shaw couldn't join us today because his computer exploded and his current new computer doesn't have a camera. So to help Kevin out, we're going to start a GoFundMe to get him a new camera and send him to Disneyland. It's going to be $30,000, so please contribute. So we don't have a guest today.
Kevin.
We don't have a guest today, but we're just going to kind of talk current events. I mean, we might end up having a guest because we're thinking about just bringing anyone on that wants to come on and see what they want to talk about. What did you guys want to start with today?
Oh, well, let's see what we've got. We can start on the lighter side.
Oh, don't forget, we should start off with saying, fuck Tucker Carlson.
I think we can all agree to that.
Yeah, fuck Tucker Carlson. Absolutely.
I'm not going to disagree, but as a non-Fox watcher, what has he done lately?
Oh, God.
What did he do?
It was the call CPS if you see a child wearing a mask outside. That was a big one. Yeah, don't do that. Like, for legal reasons, don't do that. I am not a lawyer, but I can tell you, don't do that.
Please don't.
What else was he? He's been peddling in some pretty hard vaccine denialism.
So when's the Mises Caucus harpoon coming?
Oh, he did? Oh, that's right. Well, I mean, there is a podcaster who really enjoys Tucker because, you know, his anti-war stance. I don't even know when the last fucking time Tucker talked about war, but apparently he did say thousands died from getting COVID vaccines this week, so I missed that one. Usually Popat will tweet something stupid that Tucker said. He did have Charlie Kirk on. That also stupid. Because, you know, you can take the Facebook Oversight Committee decision to the Supreme Court now.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Is that,
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
I mean, you are in law school. Is that how it works? Did you learn that the Supreme Court is just above the Facebook Oversight Board?
Yeah, it's Facebook, the Supreme Court, and then Twitter.
Okay. I thought. Is
and then Amazon.
Like an international court somewhere in there? Is Twitter way at the top?
Amazon.
No, Amazon's at the top.
Where's OnlyFans in there?
That's because OnlyFans is unfortunately only an appellate jurisdiction for like the lower courts.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get Sam Coppinger to join right now, and he won't. But I'm going to send him the StreamYard link anyway, and we'll see if he'll do it.
I mean, Sam, I am wearing your hoodie. Your hoodie.
I don't even think he's actually watching.
Probably not.
All right, so we haven't actually talked about anything of substance yet, so we should probably get to something. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say, anybody here watching SNL tonight to see what happens with Dogecoin?
Oh yeah.
We going to the moon tonight?
I hope so.
It's gonna. I can tell you already what's gonna happen. It's gonna keep spiking, and then once the episode's over, once they mention it, it's gonna fucking crash.
Oh,
I can tell you that right now.
Probably.
It's the lead up that everyone buys into, and then when the actual thing happens, that's when the sell off happens, and it's gonna be huge. That's my prediction.
Yeah. Well, it's down already right now.
What's it like in the 60s or something? 60
Yeah, 60
something cents.
62%, yeah. Or 62%, 62 cents, yeah.
So, anybody going to the LP of PA convention next week?
I want to. I don't know if I can yet.
I can't make it, but it's gonna be nuts. It sounds like it's gonna basically be like a mini LP convention. Like so many people coming.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot. I mean, even me, I'm flying because flights were absolutely ridiculous to get out to Pittsburgh. Like, absolutely insane. Like $900 for a remotely decent flight. And so I'm flying to Chicago. We're getting a ride. I'm getting a ride there. And then coming back with somebody else. And then flying out of Cleveland. I think Cleveland or Cincinnati, one of the two. Somewhere in Ohio. So I'm going to actually be able to prove if Ohio exists or not. Because apparently I'll be there.
Yeah, let me know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep us updated.
Which then the flight flies to Denver and then back to Minneapolis. So three time zones, 4 airports just to get out there and do the thing.
So did anyone see what happened in speaking of the LP of Pennsylvania, did anyone see what happened in Bucks County this week?
I did not.
So apparently, a bunch of Mises people, and I've heard some conflicting stories on this. I mean, it's hard for me to believe Heiss's story, but apparently a bunch of Mises people showed up at a county affiliate in Pennsylvania, including a bunch of out-of-county people. Like, it's not even Heiss's county, but Heiss was there. I think Jeff Douglas was there, and they
pills.
Sudafed, yeah. And it wasn't even the day of an election, but I've heard conflicting stories on this, but supposedly the meeting adjourned, and then like the chair left, they reopened the meeting and voted to remove the chair and decided to have an election. Like no advance notice or anything.
Oh,
And
wow.
they installed a Mises Caucus chair there.
So wait, the chair had already left and the meeting was already adjourned?
That's what I've been hearing, is that
If that's the case, then anything done after that is, I mean, if Robert's rules is being followed, anything done after that is complete BS.
I've heard that too.
Unless Amazon's Court of Judgment signed off on it.
Well, we have to see what the Supreme Court says first before we get there.
Mhm.
Well, I'm saying not even the Supreme Court can handle this one.
Oh, it's straight to Amazon, huh?
But I mean, it's definitely going to be, no matter what happened exactly, there's definitely going to be a lot of bad blood from that going into next weekend. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen there. Like,
Right.
hopefully no one starts fighting anybody, but it sounds really nasty.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. I'll be there. I suppose I could report live from the convention.
I was going to say, you should
Do it.
I'll hop on and host something, and then we can just like stream you in and I can ask you questions or something like that.
Breaking news,
You
Jeremy.
should, wait, when is that Mises event? Because for anyone who doesn't know, Mises is holding an event the same day as the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania convention, like the same day that like party business is going on and the speakers are at the convention. They're holding their own separate thing because they were mad that the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania wouldn't let Dave Smith speak. So they had to. I know Maj was invited to their separate event, but I think he dropped out.
Yep.
So I'm not totally sure who it is besides Dave now, but they're holding like their own separate thing. I wonder what admission to that's like.
So let's see. I know. I think Scott Horton is. Oh, I found it.
Oh, you got it.
Yep. So Scott Horton Dave Smith.
Oh wait, tech guy, can you check and see if anyone's backstage right now?
There is no one backstage
Oh,
currently.
there's not.
Michael
okay.
Rechtenwald, which you, I think, pulled up something on him the other week. Let's see, Jeff Deist, however you pronounce it. And then Anthony Samar. I don't know who that is. But
I think I saw the comment about Hotep Jesus just now. I'm pretty sure, unless I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Hotep Jesus is actually going to be at the California one. Yep. I could be wrong on that. I don't think he's going to Pennsylvania.
Yep. Hotep Jesus will be at California.
Mm-hmm.
And their little side event.
And when's that? Is that the same weekend?
Also
or is
next week.
Okay.
Yep. For, anybody, by the way, going to the California convention should nominate James Ogle for everything, by the way.
James Ogle for everything.
Yep.
Oh, John, we do have someone backstage.
All right,
oh,
perfect.
We do, huh? Surprise guest, huh?
Yes. I didn't even tell you guys about this.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Sam.
Here with my dad.
Hello.
Yeah. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
So yeah, I figured that you could ask my dad questions. He's a longtime voter. He actually voted for Joe Jorgensen.
Nice.
So what's your dad's name before so I can address it?
I told him you guys would love that he voted for Jorgensen and voted for Gary in 2016.
Nice.
So
yep.
Better record than Dave.
Yeah, Dave Smith. Sure. I would certainly vote for my dad over Dave Smith without a question.
I think I would too.
Right.
I would too.
I'm your dad. I would too. Just gotta put that out there.
So do you have any questions for this average American voter?
Yeah, so what convinced you? What's your political history, and what convinced you to vote for Joe Jorgensen in 2020 and Gary Johnson in 2016?
Just a lack of choice out there. It's been a long time since I think the last Republican I voted for was Reagan. Yeah, and then I voted for Bob Barr after that, and Gary Johnson, and
So what are your thoughts on Trump? Why did you not want to vote for Trump? As a kind of lifelong Republican in a way, why did you not want to vote for Trump?
I don't like the man himself. He's a punk. He's one of those. I look at a guy he's never mowed his own lawn, never washed his own car. I mean, he's always had everything given to him, never had to scrimp and save to make ends meet. I don't know how people identify with a rich and privileged guy like that.
Fair. That's fair.
I don't know. That's just I don't like him. Some things he was doing, maybe I don't know. I don't know.
And then what are your thoughts about Biden?
I think he's a nice guy. I wouldn't mind having a beer with him. I don't know how good of a president he's going to be. He's off the cuff. I don't think he's very savvy and quick to make decisions, stuff like that. But as a human being, I think he's a decent guy. It remains to be seen what's going to happen with him. I hope we're never in a situation where a war is hinged in the balance of his decision or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be rough.
Yeah, wouldn't it be though?
So, do you have a preference for who wins the Libertarian Party nomination in 2024, or you're not aware of any?
He doesn't know.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure.
Justin Amash is, right?
Yeah. You and I have talked about him.
I think he likes Justin Amash. He wouldn't have heard any of the other ones. So the other major contestant is this guy named Dave Smith, who's also a podcaster, which is what we're on right now. This is a podcast.
So we're definitely not Dave Smith.
No, these guys are a lot better than him. Dave Smith is a guy who thinks that libertarians should work with neo-Nazis and white supremacists and the alt-right, and thinks that that's a real winning strategy, and that libertarians are too sensitive and pander too much to the delicate sensibilities of the general public, and that we need to stake a really hard claim and show that we'll make make no compromise, and that. So yeah, there's in the 90s there was a movement among some so-called libertarian figures who tried to get to ally with David Duke.
Yeah,
that they wanted, because David Duke ran for Senate in the 90s, and so these guys, Lou Rockwell, and have you heard of Ron Paul? So like Lou Rockwell and kind of Ron Paul and this other philosopher Murray Rothbard wanted people to embrace this super fringe right, like Ruby Ridge kind of people, vote for David Duke, and so this Dave Smith guy is kind of the modern incarnation of that he wants to revive that kind of a strategy.
Masses won't agree. Libertarian, for them to get equal footing with the Democrats and Republicans, they got to be able to debate and get their name out there, because Sam brings a lot of this to my attention of what, and I think the common man, who was, Gary Johnson, or, I don't understand why during a debate they can't be with,
why they can't be on the stage as well.
Yeah, to get their opinion, because how, again, does a common man know they exist or what their objective is and their, all that. So until that gets addressed, I think there's always going to be,
hard barrier to overcome.
Again, it's just get the common man out there to know what they are and what they stand for and what their objective is and what their view is, and once that's done, then I think they'll get a lot more popularity and grow.
And I definitely don't think pandering to like the alt-right like Dave wants to do is gonna help with that. That's just gonna hurt us.
Yeah.
My mom is mumbling in the background that she agrees to that's a terrible idea.
I'm glad the Coppinger family is all in agreement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most of the time.
Honestly, I would say that my dad really does have kind of the at least the fundamental basics of a libertarian leaning, that it's especially in more recent years, maybe with my influence, he's kind of gotten more around to just, live and let live, and just that, the things that other people choose to do in their lives, as long as they don't affect other people, that there's really, it's just none of our business. And so
I used to be judgmental when I was younger, but now it's just kind of live and let live. As long as they don't do any harm to me or my family or, you guys or anything like that. And just
That's fair enough.
Let people be the way they want to be.
But so yeah, there's that basis, and then also, you hate taxes. And
who doesn't? These guys like taxes?
I know, they sure don't.
No.
It's endless.
Texas is nice as long as it's not too hot.
This governor we have in Washington State, he is literally a tax-hungry guy. He wants to implement a state income tax. We already have the highest gasoline tax. I don't know if you guys know, but Washington State does not have an income tax right now. We just have a state sales tax, which I prefer that setup. Whereas Oregon, for example, is the other way around. They don't have a sales, but they do have an income. I would prefer a consumption to an income tax. For instance, right now, how much is a gallon of gas where you guys live today? If you were to,
I think I filled up for $2.89 the other day.
well,
I think I'm at 230.
Oh, geez. Yeah, here it's like over $3.50 now, just for like the base level.
Ooh,
Like the Washington State has a 75-cent per gallon gas tax.
Oh my god!
Ooh,
ridiculous.
I didn't know that.
Imagine gas for 10 cents a gallon. We could do that if libertarians were in charge.
Yeah.
You want to know
Don't
how?
have the oil produced in the United States. We have enough to sustain ourselves.
Not because of the oil in the ground. We would deregulate the market. Nuclear would rule, and liquid fluoride thorium reactors would allow us to
you like
truck
right?
CO2 right out of the air and
And
create
safely
as much gasoline as you want.
I'm all for clean energy, and that can be clean, like solar power. Why
Yeah,
not harness the
Nuclear is actually the cleanest and the safest energy source that there is. People get the wrong idea because of high-profile accidents like Chernobyl, which was entirely the fault of the Soviets.
That's
not
Or
the
3 Mile
technology.
Island.
Yeah, 3 Mile Island. It's, again, these high-profile accidents, but if you compare, the maybe 10 or 13 people who die in one of those accidents to the tens of thousands that die over a longer period from clean coal and things like that, that's absolutely, no contest. So
Right.
yeah, we like clean energy just as long as it's not, we're not shafting the taxpayer to pay for all that. Right?
I agree.
Anything else we want to touch on here, Sam?
I thought you were supposed to have more questions.
Well, no. I mean, you said specifically you wanted to talk about Biden and Trump, but we can talk about random current events. Let me see what I have on my list here. We were going to talk about whether private businesses should be able to require vaccinations of like customers or employees. COVID vaccinations, obviously, specifically.
So what do you think of that? If a business said, we don't want you coming in unless you have a vaccine, is that fine with that? Or
If that's the step to get us back to normal behavior, I don't have to be conscious to get my keys, my wallet. Oops, I need to get my mask too. It's just one more thing I have to remember, and I hate wearing them just like you guys probably do. If getting inoculated gets us back to normalcy, I'm all for it. I know there's a lot of people that question if it's safe or the side effects down the road are gonna affect you, but I'm pretty safe doing it. I did my first one.
Yeah, I got both of them.
yeah, we're both waiting on our second right now.
You guys are like what, in your 30s, 20s, 30s?
Yeah.
Yeah, 20s and 30s.
Okay.
And Archie, but
Yeah. Did you guys get your shots?
yeah, I got both of mine.
Yep, got both my. I got my.
And you guys
second one
believe
this
that's the prudent thing to do, right? To
Yeah,
get back to normal?
Yep.
Because there's a lot of people, a lot of defenders that say, "Oh no, how who knows what is in that thing?"
We know people on we know two different flavors of anti-vax people. There's obviously the right wing who think that it's somehow a Bill Gates is going to
microchip.
But then we also know these kind of like hippie left people who think that, oh well, it just hasn't been tested enough yet. It's not safe. We just don't know what's going to happen. And apparently their solution is just to carry on like this forever. It's like I don't know at what point they would say that we've met the threshold where it is safe to do. Because even if, which they shouldn't do, say that they use the FDA as the guideline. Okay, the FDA said it's safe. Say that I want to see, some high profile, famous or powerful people get it. Okay, that's also happened. And they say, oh, did they really get it though, or did they just act like they did? So it's, we know people in our own lives that are on both,
Well, the people who think
right?
COVID's fake and stuff like that too.
Yeah,
We've
and
run into a
it's
lot of those.
interesting that it comes from two different angles. That both you have like the stupid Trumper kind of people, but then you also have like these lefty kind of hippie people who have their own quote unquote reasons to be skeptical of it. So,
Right.
but yeah, no,
anti-vax is definitely not a partisan, definitely not a partisan thing.
We've seen a shakeup of political alliances recently, where there's kind of a lot of issues where formerly like left hippie people are siding with kind of Trump on things, and it's a weird thing to witness. It's definitely a different politics than what you grew up with. So when my dad was born, Eisenhower was president, and there were only 48 states. So things have changed since then.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for my age. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like things have changed significantly in like the past 10 years. I mean, past 5 years even.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
It's kind of funny. I was just thinking not long ago when I was in high school, the biggest thing come out was cassettes. That time I had 8-track cassettes. I graduated in 1977, and from that time till now, just the change in everything.
Like growing up, but when the internet wasn't even a thought in anyone's mind.
How do you get along without this now?
Yeah.
but I did. I was not. So I just kind of sometimes wonder what it'll be like 20 years from now. But
Yeah.
will there be driverless cars by that time?
I wouldn't be
Maybe.
surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, they're working on them now.
Yeah, Tesla's can almost drive themselves already.
But what happens when a random little kid gets ran over by a car with a ball going? I mean, just the liability attached to it. I think it's a great idea. You go to a bar, have a
Yeah, it could save plenty of lives in that
It will,
regard.
but that unexpected incident.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we know
Another
that's going to
problem.
happen.
Yeah, a problem with those two is like
Technology's
any
always
incident.
exponentially getting better, so hopefully we can, quickly kind of stomp out those what ifs, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't one just like wrap itself around a tree the other week?
Well,
Like,
yeah, it's the problem with that is like any new technology like this, anytime that there's an accident that happens, even though that in the same period that one accident happens with the new technology, 1,000 happen with the outdated or current technology. But one Tesla catches fire and that's national news. Meanwhile, 5,000 normal cars have caught fire and no one cares. But there's such a higher standard held to the new thing, which I think honestly applies to libertarians too, as the the other option, that it's like the thing that's not part of the present system always is the thing that needs to prove itself to a standard higher than what the status quo is held to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's true.
Joe just commented, "I'm not ready for AI in my car. I've seen Terminator." And he was commenting that just as I was thinking about saying something about Terminator, and instead of it being Skynet because we're talking about cars, it would be DriveNet, and I mean, it's a heck of a question that even if we're ready or not ready, I mean, I'm not sure what you could even consider ready, but like if we turn on an actual artificial intelligence, if we plug it in, consciously make the decision to do that, forget the fact that we might make one by accident, but what does that imply? Because yes, there are other intelligent animals on this planet, but nothing near what we do. And an AI could actually, it could start a nuclear war if it wanted to, like potentially. If it saw us as an enemy.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen like what was it? What's the movie where there's an AI that it determines the only way to save humanity is to kill humanity or something?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think maybe iRobot's what I'm thinking of.
And even Westworld, the movie,
Yeah, the robots come to life.
Yeah, the only way you could tell the difference was that they couldn't perfect the fingers or rings, but
like joints.
Yeah, and then just over time, that Yul Brynner character just developed his own agenda and started killing the guests.
Yeah, before there was the Westworld TV show in 1973, there was the Westworld movie. It's pretty.
I actually saw the movie.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
A little corny, but wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was. But yeah.
Do we want to pull up Hody John's comment? Because I want to see what we think
Yeah,
about
I
that.
did actually want to comment on that. Is that I got both vaccines, and each time I had the worst reaction of anyone I knew. The day after I had 102.7 degree temperature and I felt like crap, and it only lasted for 1 day, I would still recommend getting the vaccine.
Yeah.
So just for anyone that's listening to the audio version of this instead of the video, I'm going to read Hody's comment here. It says, "For the sake of conversation, do you think it's okay to say a vaccine is safe even if there's a chance it makes people sick or die? That chance is very low, but I do worry that guaranteeing the safety gives ammunition to the anti-vaxxers." I mean, my response to that would be, it's generally safe, but anything is going to have its risks. Like, you could have a bad reaction to some kind of food randomly. Like, you could choke on food. You could drink too much. There's been people who've like drank too much water and died. I know it's like if you chug a bunch of it or something, but I mean, anything's always going to have its risks.
And I mean, anti-vaxxers are going to take any ammunition they can get too. Like they're going to take anything. It doesn't matter if you say it's safe or it's not safe. They're going to.
What's funny about this is that these are the same, like, if this is supposed to be like an anti-vax kind of argument, it's the same thing that they say, like, oh, we can't live in fear. There's always risk in everything. But somehow then when it comes to the vaccine itself, the narrative is flipped, and it's like, oh, well, now we can't take any chances because it's.
Well, I don't think he's making. I don't think he's an anti-vaxxer. I don't think he's making I don't think he's making an anti-vax argument, but he's like worried that we'll be giving ammunition to the anti-vax people.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the information on it should be accurate. We don't want to say that it's, absolutely safe and that nobody's going to have any side effects. It's like we should be upfront and honest about what it is, but just make clear that, this is a step that needs to be taken for the sake of public health and for getting back to normal.
I don't know what the alternative is. If you don't get the vaccine, what, just wait it out? I mean...
Yeah, it's just there's no viable alternative. It's like there's either just the stupid like liberals who have now just come to enjoy the masks and the sake of virtue signaling that they get from it, that they just they're the best at following the rules and they follow orders best and they like the mask and they got one that's special with little kitty paws on it and stuff. And then there's the other side who just, the Christie gnomes who think that we should just do nothing, that we should just let 5 million Americans die and just completely do not change anything about our lives whatsoever. So it's just there's no reasonable, alternative to just, masking up in the meantime and getting the vaccinations and getting this all over with.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of overlap between the anti-vaccine people and the people that don't think COVID's a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it is, but it is funny, we can't live in fear. A virus that, only that has a 99 point, invented number survival rate. And then, the moment that, 6 blood clots out of 1 million.
For the Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah. That
it was out of more than 1 million.
It's like, oh my God, it's going to, the ability to assess risk goes totally out the window when it butts up against your feelings.
I was arguing with a guy yesterday. I called COVID the worst pandemic in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
And he said, he took like issue with that statement. He's like, oh, well, the death rate's low. It's not the worst. And I was like, so what pandemic in the last 100 years do you think was worse? He said cancer and malaria.
That's are not pandemics.
Yeah, that's not how that works. I mean, I could see possibly an argument for like HIV/AIDS maybe, but that's cancer is not. That's not what that is. Yeah, you don't catch. My mom says from the background, you don't catch cancer.
Exactly.
I mean, technically, you could technically get HPV if you're a woman, and get cancer that way, technically catching it. But
yeah, that's
very minimal. Very small thing.
Yeah, I guess the one you could argue is HIV.
Yeah, that's the only one I could see really a viable argument for. So pivoting away from COVID, though, do you have just any questions about past political history that we were too young to live through that my dad might have some interesting insights or experiences about or anything? Or what was it like to live through X time or event or anything like that?
Let me think here.
Probably know that. Just told graduated.
Yeah, but just your perspective of certain things that happened or whatever.
Yeah.
Trying to think of a good one.
I mean, I would be curious as to. Sorry, go ahead, Archie.
How do you feel about the propaganda surrounding both the Korean and the Vietnam Wars?
So that's a weirdly phrased question. What are your thoughts on Korea and Vietnam?
Shortly after World War II, when the communists were invading democratic South Korea, I think at the time that was the prudent thing to do. MacArthur wanted to get in there and try to stabilize the region, not let it follow the communists.
So
that was a failure as well as Vietnam. It's, again, you're trying to curb that communism thing.
So this is a question that these guys particularly will enjoy. Is, do you think that Nixon intentionally prolonged the war by sabotaging peace talks in 1968?
If he did, why would he?
Because the narrative and what is probably true is that he did sabotage the peace talks so that he could run on a platform of ending the war. Because if the war had ended before his campaign really took off, then that issue would have been lost. People forget today that Nixon ran on a platform against the Vietnam War, but then got in office and prolonged it for many years further. But there
did Johnson.
Yeah,
Lyndon
for sure.
Johnson really.
He escalated it to a great deal.
Invaded Cambodia, and then it escalated from there, and then just we're on the home front. And it was a shitty time when everybody had different viewpoints and stuff. Nixon, he was I don't know any more than any other politician. Shady character.
What was it like living? Or what was it like living through Watergate?
Yeah, do you have many memories? I mean, you're still pretty young.
I was pretty young. I remember it was just saturated on TV, every channel.
My mom says there were no cartoons.
I do remember. I was 5 years old when JFK got shot. And he got shot on a Friday. And I remember Saturday morning cartoons I looked forward to, as any kid did, all week for that 2-hour window on Saturday morning cartoons. I just remember turning it on. Every station was, black and white of him, what happened to him and stuff like that. So that's my first early conscious memory as a child, was JFK's assassination. Then when I was 10 years old, man landed on the moon. That was pretty cool. So, I've looked at some pretty...
Yeah, I've probably seen some historic moments over the years.
And as you guys have in your lifetime, 9/11 and... to the Iraq War, and just.
Yep.
Here's a question. I do have a question. How is after going all through this history and then witnessing January 6th of 2021? What was that like?
So that's with the Capitol riot.
I know. It was. It pissed me off. I didn't want to see a Confederate flag in the United States Capitol, and I don't know if they don't get their way, they're going to storm the county. I don't like that. No, I mean, I'm sure nobody, a lot of
people did.
Oh, they did.
A good third of the country was thinking they were doing God's work by installing God's chosen leader as president for life. So.
And it really irritated me, that asshole putting his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Now that I'm a Nancy Pelosi lover, but just the fact, let's embrace that. Go, man.
And you know that people were actively trying to find, AOC. They were actively trying to find her problems. Who knows what they would do with her? Horrible things. I'm sure.
Ben Shapiro took her shoes.
Yeah.
Hello, Sam. By the way, and Sam's dad. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Sam's best friend.
Oh, we know.
No, I didn't like it, and it was like if this one Capitol officer didn't lead them to the left when they wanted to go to the right. There could have been maybe some, because weren't they going to go to the chambers or something?
They did get into the Senate chamber.
Yeah,
remember that guy jumped down onto the desk?
Yeah, I thought there was something more dire to it, that if they would have entered, they would have, or I don't know. I thought I heard something.
Yeah, there was something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what it was.
No. Anyway, no, that was an awful thing to do. Whether I was for him or against him, I don't like just forcing your will because you don't like the decision.
Yeah, they have to follow the democratic process, and it's
again. Before this, was there ever a Confederate flag in the United States Capitol? I mean, we went to war.
There was.
What do you think about people simultaneously holding an American flag in one hand and a Confederate flag in the other? What is your sense of that?
The loudspeaker should have said, "Disperse right now, or we're going to open fire on you," because you're supposed to protect the foreign and domestic. That was a domestic terrorism, and it should have been dealt with right on the spot. But that asshole Trump incited that stuff by his. Speech.
Yeah,
I guess we got to take it back, don't we? And all this shit. I'm not indirectly telling him to do that.
He did tell them to
Sure.
literally storm the Capitol building, but
But
he
read
did
on
tell
the
them to
line.
have a riot
Yes,
at the
exactly.
Capitol.
Yeah, I agree. They should have stormed. They should have stormed the city dump. There's like so much plywood in there. I just got out of there. I'm a millionaire now.
Yeah, people are going to start raiding houses, leave the copper wires there, just take the plywood.
I just loaded up on plywood pallets and like I'm set for life.
Is that worth more than Dogecoin right now? The plywood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume Sam's dad thought he should have been impeached after January 6th, or the January 6th riot.
Well, he was impeached, but
Well, I mean, like, and convicted.
yeah.
Yeah, do you think he should have, been
Well, sure, but the
everything?
guy's bulletproof. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
that nothing could stick to him. He's
They call him the Teflon Don.
like Gotti was. Yeah, it just seems nothing could stick to him. But despite all the efforts and all this so-called evidence they have, I don't know. He must have some good lawyers, or just
Definitely
Really
doesn't have
lucky.
lawyers.
well, how the hell is he?
Because
So,
people just don't care. That's literally
You
what it
just
is.
really
People
think that-
just don't care, or not
I
enough.
don't care, or he builds such a cult of personality around him that
exactly, he sure
literally
does.
he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and nobody would give a
Yeah,
shit.
like he said, that's the only true statement he's ever made in his life is that he could shoot somebody and lose no voters.
So you guys think he'll be around in 2024? Do you think he's
Probably.
going to reemerge?
I think there's a good
Probably.
chance. He likes the attention too much. I think he'll be back.
Yeah, he needs the attention. He needs the money.
Well, the support neither, though, is what I'm getting at. Is
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, he's got his
He gets in the
diehard
race, he's
supporters,
definitely-
but it's probably going to be an uphill climb for him if he does run.
You think?
I
I think
I
he'll
mean,
win the
who's going to go
nomination.
against him though? Like Ron DeSantis? It's like who about?
I don't
like,
even. I don't think anyone friendly to him is going to go against him. Because
Yeah,
they
it just
wanna-
doesn't-
They'll
it
want to be a
doesn't
V. Yeah,
work,
they'll want
because
to be
it's
a. They'll want to be like a VP, or they'll want to like set themselves up for 2028. Like they don't want to piss off Trump's base.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like these people who are trying to thread the needle, like the Nikki Haley's and Ron DeSantis's, who are like, pro-Trump, but don't like totally try to make that their brand because they want to maybe appeal to people who are kind of more Romney-type Republicans too, if they can. But it's like they can't run against Trump then, or then they're the not Trump and therefore anti-Trump candidate. So it's like it just doesn't make sense. Like the Republican base truly wants Trumpian fascism, and that's what they're going to get. So if he enters the race, I don't see how he's not the nominee. So it's
I don't
really
know.
something.
I was going to say I don't know how true it is, but I've heard something about Trump considering like DeSantis as the VP for a 2024 run.
That surprised me. Yeah.
I could definitely see it. I mean, I feel like DeSantis is pretty Trumpy. I mean, I'm down here in
Yes,
Florida.
definitely. He's the governor of Florida.
I would actually
I've heard the name. I don't know enough. Like you guys are more. But
that happens just to pull Dave Smith away. Because if that's the ticket, Dave Smith's going to be like, yeah, I'm in.
yeah,
It's
I really think if Trump took COVID-19 a little more seriously and a sense of urgency, he probably could have won. But it's just like grab a hanky or let it run its course.
He
As
just
people
did
are
nothing.
dying. Dying.
Oh yeah,
It's it's possible
Mars
that
out in-
even as much as hated as he was by so many people, just by the structure of the electoral college and things like that, it's definitely plausible that if he had just done anything more on COVID at all and not just been such a cataclysmic failure on that, he very well could have won again, which would have been indescribably disastrous for the sake of our democracy.
I mean, I'm not a fan of either of them, but
Yeah.
He definitely sealed his fate with COVID. Yeah,
I think that was.
I mean, I think that put a lot of people on the fence, and the people that it put on the fence were in the wrong or right places, depending on your opinion on who won, and it sunk him.
okay. Anything else we want to touch on here?
Well, actually, Zach said too, kind of the handle.
I would love what he's So the comments you guys are pulling up from Zach Britt here, I would love if that was true, but it's not. That the BLM protest is what made Trump lose. I would love to say that it was some inspired sense of moral justice that caused the people to turn against Trump and the white supremacy that he normalizes, but that definitely is not what happened here. We did not have this mass moral awakening, and you can see that by the fact that literally nothing has changed, that no policy has changed. You know, you had proposals from Ayanna Pressley and Justin Amash and all these things to end qualified immunity to drastically reform the police. None of that happened, and now everybody's over it. Nobody cares. It was such a flash in the pan, and it's ultimately accomplished nothing because people don't actually care.
It was sad to me that libertarians didn't embrace it more in general. Like, I mean,
libertarians were all against it.
That's what I'm saying.
Everybody thought that. Yeah,
I wouldn't say all, but like a lot of them.
If we're using quotes around libertarian or not.
That's the thing.
The Dave Smith trial certainly was against it.
You can play no true Scotsman about it and be valid in doing so, but when there's such an overwhelming proportion of self-described libertarians who are, not true Scotsmen but call themselves ones anyway, it's like, what are you really gaining by doing that? You can say they're not real libertarians, and maybe you're right, but when there's so many, it just
there's a huge difference between the delegate base and the quote greater liberty movement unquote. There really is. Like, yeah. I see delegates groups. I see the discussions in there. They're far different than outside. So the party is probably. Pardon?
I was going to say. So you mean like the small L versus big L?
Right. The greater liberty movement is infested with the right-wing paleotype that Rothbard deliberately courted, and Dave Smith is now deliberately courting. Like, that's just the very unfortunate truth of the state of our movement. But the party itself is nowhere near that bad.
There's a lot of people who are that bad who are in the party.
There are a lot of people in the party that are that bad. But
how based would it be if BLM had stormed the Capitol?
No, that wouldn't be good either.
If they had stormed it, awesome. If they had stormed it, we would be dealing with dead bodies, not court dates.
Yeah, you'd have mass slaughter. You'd have all of Middle America. You'd have every 51-year-old mom in Columbus would be looking at that and calling them all terrorists and calling for them to be gunned down in the streets. You would upset Middle America so much. Storming the Capitol is not the way to accomplish your goals. All that they would do is condemn and damn the cause that they are trying to champion. That is not how we accomplish things here.
I'm just going to comment wrong on that.
Okay. Dad and Mom, normal American voters, what would you have thought if BLM protesters had stormed the Capitol and done exactly what the Trump people would have done? Would that have made you more or less sympathetic to their cause? Less sympathetic. That is not something that would win voters or win hearts and minds. That would only result in a reactionary countermeasure that would be more authoritarian than anything that we have now.
I think ethically it would have been pretty awesome, and I would have loved to see
abstract ethics in some sense of moral righteousness doesn't result in the actual outcomes that we want to see. It's you could have your moral righteousness as more black men than ever are being gunned down or put in prisons by policemen. And so what are we looking for here? Are we looking for a sense of self-righteous moral indignation, or are we looking for actual positive outcomes?
Well, what about the third precinct? Wasn't that pretty fucking great? $15.
It was cathartic in some sense, but it didn't accomplish anything.
That accomplished more than you could imagine.
What did it accomplish? What did the Chaz accomplish?
That scared the crap out of the cops when the third precinct got burned down.
And what do you think cops do when they're scared? Where do you think all of the problems with policing come from when cops are scared?
That brought real reform. If you look at the studies, the riots or the protests actually resulted in actual change.
No. Maybe the change it resulted in was scaring Middle America into supporting more authoritarian policies and alienating themselves from the sympathy that they had for the BLM movement.
We now have police departments that are being downsized. We now have attention on all sorts of police brutality issues. We now have police review boards in a whole bunch of cities that are being instituted. We now have a whole bunch of criminal justice reform bills that are coming out of it. There's been real change brought because of all the attention that created.
I mean, gonna have to agree there. I don't think if we didn't have that police station burned down, I don't think Chauvin would have been convicted.
Oh, I absolutely do not agree at all. I think if anything, that only made it less likely to happen.
Okay.
What do you think on this? Do you think that, riots and burning down buildings and taking over police stations is a way that's going to gain the sympathy of the American people?
If it's a valid cause they're going after, but as soon as you throw a brick through a Target window, you've lost me.
Don't do it at the Target. Do it to the police station and the courthouse.
These guys are just innocent business owners.
What if it's, the police station? Because you remember in Minneapolis that they burned down a police station and stuff like that, or in Seattle, the Chaz, the Capitol Hill autonomous.
I didn't like that, how we surrendered everything to them. They have a right to protest, but do it peacefully and don't destruct private property.
I agree that Target and AutoZone should not have been targeted places like that. Legitimate targets would have been police stations, courthouses, federal buildings, stuff like that. I'm probably on a watch list now, but that's what I'm saying. And I agree. I agree with you that they should have burned down all those police stations.
Who are you saying you agree with?
Wait, who just said that?
Yeah, so I'm really happy that Sam's dad is totally on board with burning the police stations and federal buildings, like the courthouse. We're gonna meet at the federal courthouse in Seattle, Washington, and we're gonna be a 2-man demolition team.
Yeah, I want police accountability, but I don't know. I don't like downsizing. I want accountability by them though.
What do you think of? Do you know what qualified immunity is, where a cop cannot be sued by a civilian for misconduct? What do you think of that? Is that a system that you think protects cops, or is that something that should be abolished? My mom says should be abolished.
Yeah, I do too.
Why don't you get over here? You're participating.
No, I know there's a lot of strong feelings both ways about, downsizing police, but I want them held accountable because all lives matter. Blacks, everything. And if they're found to be overly aggressive, and they should be held accountable. That dipshit
Chauvin that kneeled on the guy's neck for 9 minutes while he was saying he can't breathe.
Just looked around, kind of looked at his phone, just complete.
That's because they just view these people as expendable.
See, what I don't understand, and maybe you guys know, wasn't Floyd in the back of the cop car to begin with, and then they let him out, and then that's what happened?
So, yeah.
Why the hell did they let him out? Why didn't they just then take him to the...
He was complaining about being claustrophobic, and he didn't want to be in the back of the car. And so they kind of set him, I think if I remember correctly, they set him down, and he was being peaceful and cooperating. Mm-hmm. And I guess they tried to put him back in the car again. He was like, no, I can't do it. And that's when they, put him on the ground.
So, yeah, clearly it would have think there had been a sergeant on hand there, Chauvin's sergeant or something, and let him handle it or something. But
so what do you think of these no-knock raids, like with Breonna Taylor, where they just burst into her house in the middle of the night and then just, gunned her down because I believe it was her boyfriend that pulled out a gun because as far as he knew, this was a home invader. Sure. This is why you own guns. No, and so then they said, he has a gun, and then mow him down.
What about that woman cop that went in the wrong apartment, shot that?
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I mean, here she's in uniform. It wasn't like she was impaired or anything, but she probably doing something. Just entered the apartment and. Now she's sobbing tears and all this. But
it's oh no, you're accountable for your actions? That's terrible.
And especially a cop. They're supposed to be a little bit more aware of their surroundings and
it's
things
something
like that.
Held to a higher standard, that the armed agents of the state tasked with, imposing violence against the public they're supposed to serve and protect, you think would be held to a higher standard, not a lower standard.
But these videos they've had of police too, say stop, and they shoot them in the back.
Yeah, shoot them 9 times in the back. It's like, and sometimes it's in like neighborhoods where it's like even besides the fact they shouldn't be shooting this target, they could miss and shoot some kid playing in his yard. It's just
that's where the accountability has to come in. These guys can't. It's not the old west, and you just go in and hope your round finds its target.
And don't forget, the cops that killed Breonna Taylor were only charged for the bullets that missed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, do we have anything else we want to touch on here? Let me see.
This is the best podcast episode you guys have had in a year.
Absolutely. I wasn't planning on this today. I had no idea what we were going to do today. We were just going to ramble about stuff.
You guys all looking
Zach
forward
Britt has
to
a
the
pretty
day?
good question.
Oh, what was that?
I was just saying, you guys looking forward to the day you guys can go to concerts again? And
Hey, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying Zach Britt has a pretty good question there.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice. It'd be nice to see things get back to normal a little bit, hopefully, but we'll see.
I'm sorry, Arizona. What question did you say? There was a question that Zach made?
Zach Britt wanted to ask Sam about his take on red flag laws.
Oh yes, let me get back to that.
Red flag laws are when somebody. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm going to try to describe what red flag laws are. I believe it's when some neighbor or acquaintance or family member or something can report to authorities that they feel a person in their life is a danger, and that poses a red flag, and then that prevents that person from being able to own a firearm. So they can't go
somebody say so.
Yeah, that if this guy here said, "Oh, I believe that Jeff Coppinger is potentially dangerous, and I have reason to believe that he could, be dangerous if he was allowed to own a firearm," and then they would, there's probably more to it than just
on the
that.
accuser say so. The accuser would have.
Yeah, do you guys know if what degree? It's probably more than literally just your neighbor saying, "Oh, I don't trust this guy," but I don't know exactly what the process for getting.
It honestly probably varies across states.
Yeah, it's going to vary across states, but it requires a positive claim and evidence and things to be brought into court. Of course, being a civil procedure, who knows really what kind of it's not a high burden there, but.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on those kinds of laws?
That's nothing that hasn't been addressed before on the red flag. I mean, cops basically say, "Well, there's nothing we can do until a crime's been committed. You can have your." But
this is a thing that they can do with these red flag laws.
Just on somebody's say so. What if this neighbor behind us? I can't stand this asshole decides to say, "Well, I think Jeff Coppinger's an imminent threat, and I want."
If he could come up with some,
the cops are just okay. Well, let's go after Jeff Coppinger because you said so.
To some degree, I think that's accurate. Again, the exact letter of the law probably varies from state to state, municipality to municipality. But I think that is the gist of what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a family member or something that if there's some abusive husband and her wife. Or his wife, reports and says, my husband is abusive and I think or a severe alcoholic and angry drunk or something.
And that's why they have this what's called Mary's Place for these battered women to go to, because there's been many times I'm afraid he's going to kill me. Well, I'm sorry, ma'am. Until it happens, I can't go after. I mean, Well, yeah.
Yeah. So you like it then, the red flag thing? My mom says she likes it.
As long as somebody goes in and investigates.
Can you hear her at all from there?
Yeah, we can. It's picking it up.
Okay.
What about due process?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
he has to investigate the claim.
So Zach,
can you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it. I was going to say Zach wants to know what Sam thinks about them specifically in the comments here.
Generally, yeah, I think there should be a due process. I don't think that the entire concept of the idea is absurd. That if there is somebody and there's prudent information that this person is going to be dangerous, like that, again, like the example of potentially like a very abusive husband or something who comes home drunk every night and beats her black and blue, then that person probably shouldn't have a gun, or he's probably going to end up killing her someday. But it shouldn't just be hearsay that just somebody can go in and anybody that they don't like have them barred from owning guns, or have the cops raid their house or something. That obviously is not something that should be allowed to happen. There needs to be a due process standard there, but the basic idea of it, I don't think it's completely absurd on its face.
The circumstance you just described is that there would be evidence the woman's face would be black.
Yeah.
What happens if she hasn't been beaten yet, but she knows it's imminent? It's just a matter of, he has another shot of whiskey, we'll put him over, and I'm going to just, I'm sure about life.
It's like, there's a lot of situations like this where there are due process standards to be followed. Like, do you remember in Dirty Harry where Harry brings in I think he brings in the sniper rifle of the guy who's killing people, and then the character that all the audience is supposed to despise says, "Well, we can't use this in court. This is impermissible because it was not acquired legally." And
those loopholes you got.
Obviously, the audience is supposed to hate that guy, but really, he's just protecting due process rights. And it's Dirty Harry is a movie that wants you to side with not due process. It wants you to say, well, just get him. We shouldn't care more about the rights of a murderer than we do about the safety of the people. But
that's why those movies are so popular, these revenge movies. People are just frustrated because you can't get justice in a justice court. It seems that there's always some...
But we can understand why it has to be that way too, because if there was a rush, to just, that's basically mob justice at that point. So we can appreciate why there has to be these due process standards.
So what about combining Breonna Taylor's case with a red flag law? Who here has heard of the term swatting?
I've heard of that.
Ooh, swatting is bad.
Because if there's a standard that doesn't actually meet the Fourth Amendment, first of all, it's unconstitutional. But second of all, you're going to have people actually making stuff up so that the police go to their enemy's house and then shit happens and someone dies.
Yeah, that's happened.
The Duncan Lamp.
What we need to realize as a society is the problem isn't the gun. The gun is a tool. The problem is violence. And we are inherently a violent society. And we need to look at that before we try to figure out, well, okay, let's take away the gun. Okay, but you're leaving knives, chainsaws, gasoline, baseball bats, crowbars, cars, trucks.
Oh, yeah, trucks. That's the thing in Europe, is that it's always just some guy in a truck that kills 30 people, and it's like, you're
leaving chlorine, bleach, ammonia. The internet.
Archie's really thought this out.
Like, no, I've thought about this a lot because I argue about gun control a lot. And if you remove a weapon, but not the person that's going to do the violence, well, the aforementioned violent asshole can just use anything. They can take a beer, they can take their Corona, smack it. Now they have a jagged, bottle.
Yeah, so you just can't nerf the world. You can't.
If they are truly a problem, lock them up. Don't take away their weapon, thinking that's going to make everyone safe, because it doesn't. One of my favorite questions I ask people that actually propose gun control is, would you rather be in a room for 24 hours locked up with the Parkland shooter or the weapons?
Yeah, that's a good point.
The weapons are going to be inert.
Yeah. I remember seeing this article several years ago about this guy. I believe it was after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, where it was this gun collector guy, and he made a video of himself sawing them all in half with like a handsaw. Yeah, with a hacksaw. He sawed all of his guns in half because they're too dangerous. This horrible, shooting at this high school convinced him guns are just too dangerous. And it's like, well, were you planning to shoot up a high school with them? Or were you thinking that they might walk out the door and do it
I
themselves?
was going to say they were just going to just wander out when he wasn't looking.
It's
I hate
just
when
that
that
was so, and there were, there's 5,000 heart and like reacts on it. Everybody's, oh, this is what we need more of in America is people, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, did this guy feel he was a danger, or again, did he think the gun was going to sprout legs, walk itself out into a school? It's just
the dude could probably mess some people up with that saw too.
Yeah. Yeah, you could go into a mall and give some people some pretty bad scrapes with that saw.
Seriously.
It was such a stupid thing that I saw, and that so many people thought that was so great. It was like, people are stupid.
I wonder why one shooting changed the guy's mind like that. Because I mean, there have been some other horrific shootings and stuff, and if he's already a gun collector, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe it was Sandy Hook. I don't remember because I feel like Sandy Hook was probably the most horrible one. That was literally kindergartners. If one is going to tug on your heartstrings, it's going to be that one. I feel like.
Yeah.
All I know is that dude made an enemy for life.
Yeah. So yeah, do you have anything else here? Or?
I don't know,
Yeah.
you guys. Oh.
No, sorry, you can go first, John.
No, I was going to ask if anyone had anything else or if we wanted to wrap up, but go for it.
Was Breonna Taylor's boyfriend justified in shooting back at the police?
Kind of think so. Yeah, you wake up from a sound sleep.
4 a.m.
Were the cops dressed as cops?
I think they were, but again, they just burst into this apartment
police,
in the middle of the night.
I mean, did they announce
I
it?
think there was a kind of conflicting witness testimony on if they announced police.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there was one witness. I think there was one witness who said they did, but he had previously said they didn't. So, and then there were others that said they didn't hear
dire
it.
that they had to do this massive break-in together. I mean, what was she accused of, or what? I don't understand.
It was
really.
the wrong place, wasn't it?
I mean,
It
she
was her
completely-
ex-boyfriend was like accused of. I think it was drug stuff, but it wasn't even that
he was
boyfriend.
accused of receiving drugs at her apartment.
Her ex-boyfriend,
Oh, okay.
not the one,
Her
not the one who
ex.
shot.
Yeah, her ex-boyfriend was accused of receiving drugs, like through the mail or whatever, at her apartment. Like the most boring thing ever. But
Clearly a kingpin.
Well, was the captain or the sergeant the one that authorized the no-knock warrant? Because that's the one.
I'm sure they probably have to. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, does that really happen all that? Usually,
It happens very
all the
very
time.
often.
And I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay,
these
so-
no-knock raids, and there's statistics on how much they've gone up since the 80s when the drug war was
Yeah.
launched. It used to be like that SWAT teams were only used like very infrequently in giant metropolitan cities when there was like a hostage situation or something. But
Yeah.
since the war on drugs in the 80s and 90s, that they're used thousands of
So
times
it's
a week in
commonplace
America.
for this to happen.
Yeah, that just
I
because
always thought
they
said,
believe some drug
"Police!"
activity is
You know,
going
when
on.
they take the button through the door, they
Yeah, but
police,
they
police.
just come in here and then
I don't
start
know if that
shooting. So,
was done to the Breonna Taylor. I don't know.
but so I mean,
But it
as far
scared the
as
shit
these,
out of you.
as far as
Sound
yeah, as
asleep,
far as
yeah.
these guys are concerned, it's the middle of the night. They're asleep. These guys break into their house. They don't know what's happening, and even if somebody you hear muffled, it's like you don't know what that
Yeah.
is or what's happening. All you know is somebody's coming into your
Yeah,
apartment. You have a gun
sound
under your
asleep,
bed, and
yeah.
it's like you're gonna defend your castle.
I see that. It just was, yeah, it was wrong.
Agreed. Anything else we want to get to? Or?
Abolish the police.
There was a question down on the
Accountability.
screen a minute ago, but I don't remember what it was now. But it was something.
I think, was it the Ricky Harris
Yeah,
one?
that. So yeah.
Okay,
So
let's talk about that before we wrap up.
let me
Oh, yeah.
let me explain a little bit of the context
Yeah.
here first. So within the you know what a caucus is? It's like a special group within a party.
Sure.
So within the Libertarian Party, there's this caucus called the Mises Caucus, which is named after some philosopher from a long time ago. But
An
they,
economist.
yeah, an economist. So they took his
Economists in
name
the
and
50s.
yeah, they took this guy's name, Ludwig von Mises, and made this caucus supposedly promoting his idea, but that's not really what they do, and they're nothing like him. But what they basically are is, like I was talking about this Dave Smith guy earlier who wants to forge an alliance with the alt-right. This is
Yeah.
basically the caucus. that he kind of represents, and that's what they're about, is that we should make inroads with the alt-right and form an alliance with them. And so one thing they've been doing in that is comparing the concept of having vaccinated and unvaccinated areas of stored, like the Mariners.
Like a baseball game.
Yeah, we
Like
were
Yankee
just
Stadium.
talking about that earlier,
Right.
that the Mariners games are just going to start having a
Oh,
vaccinated section. So he's comparing this caucus, the Mises Caucus, has been putting out stuff comparing this vaccinated versus unvaccinated, areas to Jim Crow era segregation in the South. They've said that this is no better than blacks and whites, drinking fountain. What, do you think that's a reasonable comparison, or is that?
I don't.
It's
Yeah,
and so
Ricky Harrington called them out. He was a Senate candidate for the Libertarian Party in Arkansas. And he's a black man. And I know I think someone called him a bitch or something like that in the caucus.
So I just want to add this. This is hilarious. This is just wonderful. This is why I was laughing when Sam was explaining some of the background. I looked up the tweet because I wanted to read Larry Sharp's response. And before I read Larry Sharp's response, I just want to say this. The guy that tweeted that Ricky Dale Harrington is a bitch, this tweet is from a suspended account. Is now what is showing.
So he's been suspended.
I know who the guy was. It was Nick Ashley. And not only does he deserve it for this, but he deserves it for some of the LPKY stuff that he was trolling with. Like, what was that, a month and a half ago? When the LPKY did their Holocaust tweet?
Yeah, comparing vaccine passports to the Holocaust?
That's another
one of the most so
let me explain that for a second too. So in World War II, in concentration camps, Jews would have to wear the star that said on it. So they're comparing that to the vaccine passport card. That having being forced to present your vaccine card is just the same as having to wear the Yud star. Sure. That they think that's a reasonable comparison to make.
Oh, that's crazy.
So Larry said, "Did you just call at Rick D. Harrington a bitch? You might want to check yourself and make a slight adjustment." No, it was beautiful. But now that guy is suspended, and that's even more beautiful.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing.
For the record, I approve Twitter banning Trump, and I approve Facebook banning Trump.
My mom says,
private platforms.
If you're going to contribute, you should at least come closer.
Side note, ban Pete Q as well. He's a bootlicker.
Oh yeah, take
He's
Quiznos,
very,
put him back
very
where he was.
It's just some other stupid alt-right guy online, Pete Canones. But it's good that you don't know him. There's no reason you should.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss. Huh?
It really is.
Okay, well, I think we're pretty much ready to wrap up. Thank you.
Talking to you guys.
Yeah, I was going to say,
fun.
thanks for coming on, Sam and Sam's dad and Sam's mom in the background. It's definitely been a fun episode.
Yeah.
It's great to actually, get some, some view from somebody who is
normal
outside of our chamber.
I mean, I was going to use longer words, but
these guys are so lost in their sphere of who they talk to and what their ecosystem is. They have no understanding of or connection to the average American voter, which is
what about your guys?
Sam, you're talking to the fucking mirror again.
What were you saying?
Sam is talking to the fucking mirror again.
I was talking to Sam's dad.
He was asking what your guys' parents are like.
My parents are pretty moderate. I think they voted for Biden in 2020, but I got them to vote for Gary Johnson before that in 16 and 12. So,
well, my parents are fairly apolitical, but yeah.
I just wonder if they're similar to like.
My parents are moderate to progressive Democrats.
Yeah.
Mine are wildly independent, and I get them on a lot of libertarian issues, and I got them both to vote for the libertarian ticket this year, or last year rather.
Nice.
Well, as Sam with me, he's influenced me a lot, educated me a little more on, and that's why libertarian not so much this past year, but kind of I think reflects my values and what I'd like to see go. Again, as I said, they need to get equal footing with the Democrats and
They also need
Republicans,
to
so they
earn
can.
it, though.
Well,
Like, if they want to be taken
yeah, they
seriously,
bicker
they need
amongst
to
themselves. Yeah.
present an option that's actually viable and deserves to be taken seriously,
Yeah.
which they're not very good at doing.
And what was Ross Perot? And remember,
It was Reform Party, which
Okay,
was
but-
just a one-time thing.
but they got enough support where they made him.
But it
debate
was because Ross Perot got into the debates and both parties agreed they never wanted that to happen again,
Really?
that they made this threshold where you have to be polling at 15% across all polls before you qualify for the debate, because he got into the debate and then ended up getting 20% of the popular vote, but then they were like, well, we can't ever let that happen again, and so they put these jurors in place after that.
And the Libertarians will forever be playing catch up or never be a viable option then.
That's a good point too. Ross Perot was also a multi-billionaire who could do whatever he needed to get
True,
into
he
the
did, didn't he?
into the mainstream. So
Yes.
So we gotta find a billionaire.
yeah,
That's a good guy.
I just want to say I'm glad I found a new co-conspirator in Sam's dad. We're gonna commit so many felonies, and John's gonna defend all of them.
Oh, God. Okay, well, don't mind Arizona, but okay, so we'll wrap up. Thanks to Sam and Sam's parents for joining us today, and to everyone else, we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Buy shirt, get money. No, other way. We get money. You send money, we get shirt.